It's true. We are live here with Coffee with Humans. Another day has gone by where we meet a new stranger slash friend. And I met Aaron about 10 minutes ago. We've done a handful of tech checks, but the cool thing is, by the time we're done with this half hour or 45-minute chat, he and I are going to be buddies. So welcome to all our viewers and listeners, and welcome, Aaron, for being on Coffee with Humans.
Thanks for having me. I'm so psyched to be here.
So I know that you're not in the United States only because when the system asked you your telephone number, you did a +44. So I don't have a clue where you're at, and I don't do any research on guests before they come on the show, which is, I just think, it's fun. It's fun to go in and just meet somebody. I'm outside of Chicago in the States. Where are you at?
Awesome. Well, if you look outside, it is kind of getting a little bit dark. I'll give you a guess. Where I'm from, we have two kinds of weather: gray or gray.
Okay, so are you in England?
Yes.
The UK?
I'm based in London. Yes.
Okay. All right. So that's kind of like Seattle here in the United States. It's either slightly rainy and gray and overcast, or not rainy and gray and overcast.
Yes, very much.
Well, that's cool, man. I'm so happy that you came on Coffee with Humans. I do want to understand a little bit about your nature in what inspired you. Why would you click the button to have coffee with me?
Honestly, I love coffee. And I also love chatting with strangers. Like, I don't know, like it's something about me. Like if I find something that I find interesting about someone who's like walking down the street, they're wearing like a shirt I think is cool or whatever, like I'll stop them and be like, hey, I think you're wearing a really cool shirt. Like, what's your name? Can we be friends? And some people are like, well, why is this guy talking to me? Like, but some people are like, dude, like this shirt is like so-and-so. And then I've just made a new friend. And I like the concept of Coffee with Humans because I feel like it's the same thing, but it adds coffee to it as well. And I'm a huge fan of coffee. So yeah, that's kind of what drove me to it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm a firm believer that meeting new people opens up a world of opportunities. First of all, there's this curiosity element where you get to understand a little bit about another person's life, another human, right, on this planet of billions of people. And we all live lives that are super important to us, right? Like you don't know me from anybody, and I don't know you from anybody yet. And as important as my life has been to this point is as important as your life has been to you, right? And we never knew each other existed until this moment. And that, I think, is just a fantastic opportunity, really, that I think we need to take advantage of. We've got Adam Parr here joining us from the Parsitivity podcast. He was a guest several months ago, and you can go view his time on Coffee with Humans. But welcome, Adam. Thanks for joining us.
What's up, Adam? That is awesome. And something that really, really strikes me is about this show format is a lot of podcasts get guests on which already know the value of podcasts, right? So you've got like your Joe Rogans and all these famous podcasters that they're getting like celebrities on. They're getting people who have been on lots of podcasts, and don't get me wrong, they've got amazing like stories, right? They're awesome people, but I also feel like there's this huge gold mine of like just regular humans who have some really interesting stories to share that may have not been on a podcast before, right? And I think bringing those stories to light, which is what you're doing, I think is awesome.
Yeah. You asked before the broadcast, you asked, how long I've been doing this. And I told you, that the Coffee with Humans video cast, NAN podcast, was birthed kind of at the beginning of COVID, in the mid-April timeframe. And it really was that there was such a feeling of disconnectedness that I was getting, not only kind of within myself, but in my circle, right? The people that influence me and I influence them, particularly online. And I felt like this disconnectedness could be brought back together by just lowering the barrier to entry, which was, if you want to have coffee with me, click the button. I'll have coffee with you. The only rule is no sales calls. And then I was just like, even the terminology of Coffee with Humans just like, boom, rolled off the tongue. And that was that. And now we're over we're I don't know in 80 something episodes into this of live episodes, and then there were 70 something like that were recorded prior to then, which have never been put up yet.
Wow, that is
Ooh,
amazing.
Chad's got a question for you. Chad Ensley, Aaron, what's your favorite place to get fish and chips?
Great question, Chad. This is a difficult question to answer. What I would say is a very probably not what you're expecting at all, actually. I would say Gibraltar. If any
Gibraltar.
of you, if any of you know where or what Gibraltar is, then you might be able to see why I answered that. But I'm actually from Gibraltar. And it
Oh.
is, for those of you who don't know, Gibraltar is a British territory at the bottom of Spain. There's some history as to why that is what it is. But long story short, you get, awesome British culture, but without the really crap weather. It's like someone actually decided to, let's take like a piece of Britain, but actually turn on the sun. And we also have some great food. We have some great influence from Spain and the Mediterranean. And so, you can get your fish and chips on the beach with some really great weather. So that's what I would recommend. Get your fish and chips in Gibraltar.
I've got this thing which I'm experimenting with. I'll take this off the screen. So where's that? I can't remember which hand. There he is. Boom. Check that out. Okay, so boop, right over there. This is the live chat. So as people are joining us here online, if you want to chat on LinkedIn or I think on YouTube, YouTube is just a touch faster than LinkedIn. In fact, we can chat back to you if you put your chat in on a YouTube channel. But if you got questions or comments or something that you want to talk to us about as part of us, join us. Join us over here in the chat on YouTube at Coffee with Humans. So the only thing I know about Gibraltar is where it's at. The Rock of Gibraltar. It was something that I knew about want to become famous, buy more followers. No thanks. Which was in geography back in school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I know very little about I know very little about that area of the world. I just know that, like you talked about before, like the UK seems to be overcast frequently.
Yeah, what's really interesting is that I actually met someone recently about 2 or 3 weeks ago who's based in California. And I can't remember why this came up in conversation, but I just mentioned, because I'm from Gibraltar. And they're like, Gibraltar? Like, you mean the coffee? I'm like, wait, what? The coffee? What are you talking about? And they're like, yeah, Gibraltar, like, like the coffee. And I thought, what do you mean coffee? I'd never heard that before in my life, right? And I've, grown up like 20 odd years in this place. And then someone's telling me that there's a type of coffee that's called Gibraltar. I was like, no, you're kidding, right? And then I looked it up and then I realized, wait a minute, this is actually a thing. There's a type of coffee called Gibraltar, and the story behind it is quite interesting. So apparently in the West Coast, there was this chain of cafes that started selling coffee in what they call a Gibraltar tumbler. It's like a type of glass. And they started calling that a Gibraltar. What's really interesting is that I think on the East Coast and, other places in the world, in Gibraltar, we actually call that a cortado. And what I thought was really funny was, okay, there's a type of drink called a Gibraltar that's not sold in Gibraltar. It's like sold in the US that people from Gibraltar have no idea about. And we actually call it a different thing. So, yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I think more people know about the coffee than the actual place.
That might be true. Well, I'm when we were titling this chat about now almost 20 minutes ago when we first met, you talked about the art of living well, because when you first signed up, we asked a handful of questions, right? Like, what's on your mind? And you were talking about things like, what if you know too much, like with health and that type of stuff, and then you want to talk about some tech stuff too. And you clearly have some podcasting equipment with you. So I'm going on a limb here and thinking that you have some skills in this area of chatting online. So where are we at, man? What's on your mind?
Totally. I am a pro at chatting. I chat all the time. Like my mirror is like my best friend. I just talk to myself like all day. I'm a pro chat. No, like I really love like talking to people and you know, a about a couple of months ago, I realized at work that I'm a software engineer. That's my day job, and I work at a tech company, and I developed this habit where I loved reaching out to people. I loved just like getting to meet people, getting to know what they do. Mostly because I'm a huge geek and I get curious. I'm like, oh, who is it that worked on this feature or like this technology? Like, I want to talk to them. And being someone who is kind of at the start of their careers in a company and people are really receptive to just kind of like talk about what they do and really friendly. And so I would just reach out to a ton of people. I'd meet a lot of people, and what I found was after doing this for some time that I would actually be hearing a lot of really interesting stories. People
Hmm.
were telling, some incredible stories about their lives, about what brought them to the company, about why they're working on what they're doing. And I thought, this is so inspiring. And I'm the only one who's listening to this. Like, it would be awesome if, I could help maybe share some of these stories and also have an excuse to just talk to more interesting people. So, um, with that, I thought, it would be cool to actually start a podcast. So that happened. And, a couple of months ago, I decided let's start actually reaching out to people and then just recording what we say and trying to figure out, what makes these people seem like they're living in their element. And so, yeah, that's kind of what started that.
Wow, that's cool. And what brought you to? So you're a techie software developer, so that's kind of why the idea of technology post COVID probably is on your mind. But where's this thing of what happens kind of when you know too much? And you talked about particularly in health. Where's this idea of knowing too much come from? And how does that loop back on your concept of living your best life?
Yeah, totally. So I'm really glad you asked this. So one of the reasons that I mentioned that at the time was because over the past year, especially since the beginning of the whole COVID pandemic, I had been struggling with some issues related to energy and chronic fatigue for some time now. And I really decided in 2020, okay, I'm going to double down on my health. I'm going to really focus in and figure it out. How can I, how can I improve my health and feel like a person should feel in their 20s? I felt, really kind of low energy. I was going through a bunch of things. And so um, it was a long journey, but I learned some things along the way. I am a huge geek. I love quantifying everything. I love tracking things. I love like fitness trackers. I love tracking like my calories. I love tracking my workouts, figuring out what is like my heart rate variability today, and using all of these different proxies to try and get a sense of like how I'm doing. And I even
Hmm.
like wrote an app to try and track these things, right?
Okay.
Um, and so I got really obsessed. I started thinking, okay, if I start tracking all of these variables, and my sleep, like my nutrition, like my hydration, like my mood, maybe I can start to see patterns that are just not obvious to me that can help me figure out like why I'm struggling. And it turns out that like after doing this for a couple of months, and I collected, almost a whole year of data, right? Of, how I felt on a given day combined with like my own biometrics.
Okay.
And what I found was, yeah, there may have been some things that looked like they were correlated. Like I found that my resting heart rate tended to be lower on days I didn't feel well. But it wasn't really until I took a step back from all that and actually tried to listen to my own body and my own biology and bit more intuitive that things actually improved. And I got so obsessed with like nutrition and wellness. I read a bunch of books. I read books on like biohacking. There are lots of people in the space that I like to follow. If anyone's heard of like Dave Asprey, for example, that's one example. Um, and I noticed that, you know, what I was reading, what people were telling me to do, like, oh, eat this, like eat paleo, eat like keto diet, like, you know, cut out your carbs, like make sure that you're, you know, going to a sauna and like exercising and doing all of these things. I was trying all that and it didn't seem to be working. And what I found was when I actually started listening to myself and actually easing up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
that's what made all the difference. And I almost had to forget most of what I learned about nutrition, wellness, that helped me to actually feel better. So that's kind of where that came from.
Interesting. So what I just heard you say is that you when you didn't worry about it so much and you just kind of eased into your own your own experience instead of trying to grab kind of solutions from the outside and form them or basically conform you to those solutions, then you started to kind of well, you said you started to feel better, yeah?
Totally. So the way I would put it is I treated my health and my wellness like a science,
Okay.
but I learned that really it's an art. And that made all the difference.
This you also name dropped, and this one I'm actually trying to look for. You said Dave Asbury.
Asprey. Yes. Sorry. My accent.
Asbury. Okay. There was a guy on who I thought was I thought his name was something like that. Um,
So Dave Asprey, he invented Bulletproof Coffee.
oh, okay, all
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
And so the bulletproof coffee is basically adding fat to your coffee because fat satiates you quickly, and uh, and will make you feel less hungry, because that fat gets metabolized very slowly. Yeah.
Totally, totally. There's also some other like really interesting things about Bulletproof Coffee too. So if anyone wants to try this, to make some good Bulletproof Coffee, you need about like a stick of unsalted grass-fed butter. That's the way it's recommended. And then about a tablespoon of MCT oil, which is basically refined coconut oil. And then you put that in a blender, and then you get this like really creamy coffee. That's, you're right, it's got a lot of fat, so it metabolizes slower. But the idea is not just to satiate you, but also to provide you with what are called with a kind of energy, and also help you to produce like ketones, which is like an alternative form of energy that your body can use. So our brains like mostly run on glucose. If you have like if you have any kind of carbohydrates in your diet, then you're probably running off of glucose. But ketones is like this other, you know, type of fuel that your body knows how to metabolize. And it turns out that, you know, the brain likes this more and it like runs more efficiently. There's a whole lot more nuance to it than that, but the idea is that basically after a cup of bulletproof coffee, it's like jet fuel for the mind. So
Yeah. I've I've got a little bit of exposure to that through the years, and went keto for a short period of time, twice maybe. And yeah, keto. I mean, the ketogenic diet, or eating a not worrying so much about fat and just dropping carbs and allowing your body to switch from glucose to burning fat for energy. Um, yeah, it makes a significant difference. Um, and you do feel feel different. So interesting. Do you what's your podcast about?
my podcast is it's called In Your Element, and it's about uncovering stories and ideas of people that appear to be living lives where they seem like they're in their element. And it all stems from this idea that I spoke about earlier, where I just wanted to speak with people and uncover those stories.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much the premise. I just have an excuse to talk to interesting people, and share their stories and learn more about them.
Hmm. Okay. And what kind of topics? Any sort of topic?
Yeah, so it's usually, topics that I find that excite me and I think might make for a good story. I'm drawn to, but to be honest, it's much more about the person. It's like, does this person seem like they've got a story that needs to be shared? And I'm particularly like on the lookout for people that may not actually have been on many podcasts before, but they seem like they've got an interesting story to tell. Like just a couple of weeks ago, I spoke to someone who is a professor at SUNY Erie in New York, and she uses games to teach people. And I thought that was just such an interesting thing, right? So I thought, oh, I'd love to have you on the podcast. And it's just like stories like that, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but something that's interesting, someone who has found their element, and I want to like uncover that story and learn more about them.
Interesting. What have been some standouts, or what has been a standout story that you've heard?
Well, that would definitely be one of them. And I would also say another, which is one of the first episodes I did, was I had the pleasure of interviewing Keith Blakemore Noble, who is the UK's #1 fear strategist, which is very interesting. So he is someone who works with people to try and reprogram their fears. And I thought that was just such an interesting thing, like for all kinds of fears, from, spiders to heights to even things that are even more sort of irrational, like, helping people overcome like social anxiety and all sorts of things. And I thought that was such an interesting person to talk to. We dived into all sorts of topics as to, the origins of fear and why we develop them, and then what goes into actually overcoming fear itself. So I would say that's definitely one of the highlights. But, everyone I speak to has an amazing story, interesting story to tell.
Yeah. Fear is an interesting one, and it's pretty it's a common, it has been, at least even on Coffee with Humans, a common thread through a lot of people's lives. Certainly through my life. Fear is a motivating element, and I think my example of overcoming fear is I learned to rock climb at one point in time because I was afraid of heights, and I decided I'm tired of being a slave to this fear. And so I reasoned with myself that if two people are standing on the edge of a cliff, one person's afraid and one person isn't, then there must be something that the person who's afraid must not know, that the person who isn't afraid must know, because they're both in the same circumstances and yet they have entirely different experiences. And I thought, well, if I, as the person who's afraid, could learn the things that this other person knows, then I could come to an understanding that maybe they have, right? And it's sure enough. I mean, I now know how to rock climb. I know how to set gear, and I know how to keep myself safe and other people safe, and that changed my perception of that experience in those circumstances, and it reduced my general background noise, that fear of like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die out here. No, I'm not gonna die. I might get a little injured with a skinned knee or something like that, against a rock, but I know how to keep myself safe, and I also know and understand when I should be afraid, because now I'm actually unsafe, and so it changed this nebulous fear into, am I safe? Yes, or am I unsafe? No, and it completely changed my experience. And then I could use that, turning into a positive kind of flywheel effect of, hey, I overcame that limiting belief, that fear that kept me stuck in some ways. Then I can do other things. I can change my mindset.
Wow, I think it's awesome. Did you get a rush when you were actually facing that fear in the moment?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's anxiety, right? But as I talked to one other person about it, at some point in time, they talked about anxiety. Actually, two folks. One was Mark Metry, probably a year and a half ago or something like that. I talked to him. He's got a top 100 podcast around on Apple, and he introduced a book. It's called Screw Being Shy, and one of the elements in his book, he talked about anxiety being an energy that needs to be directed. And too often we just sit in our anxiety and do nothing about it, when the antidote to anxiety is action. And so direct it, just use that energy and direct it someplace. and ideally directed for your own good, right? The other conversation I had was this idea. Somebody brought up this idea that anxiety and excitement process the same way in the body.
Mhm.
So you don't know if you're excited or anxious, except for what your mind tells you. The body's processing the same thing physically, but your mind is saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm scared," versus "Oh my gosh, I'm looking forward to this," right? And and it is simply the mind that changes the perception of that experience. The rest, the physiological effects are the same.
Well,
I've
that is.
not researched that, but I did hear it on Coffee with Humans.
I've definitely heard that before. In fact, I think it's something that that I heard speaking with Keith as well, about the same thing, that it's very similar physiological response when you are anxious or excited. So that is interesting.
Yeah, and that it's really a game changer, I think, when we come to those types of understandings, because getting back to this idea of living your best life, a lot of your best life is lived in your head, and we determine what our life is going to be by what we think about. Particularly with that anxiety versus excitement. When I start rock climbing, it's right now, we're coming out of winter and into spring, and it's getting to the point where rock climbing is a possibility, and so in my area, and I know that I will experience anxiety when I start getting on that rock for the first time, because I need to reacclimate myself. But because I know that it's simply a process of reacclimation, that anxiety does not hold me back. I just simply redirect it into, oh, I know that my physiological response is going to be, I'm going to get anxious about this. Why? Because I'm just reacclimating myself to these significant heights and making sure that I know my gear. That anxiety is good because it keeps me sharp. And then that anxiety will diminish over time, right? But the idea that I can think about my circumstances and change my perspective is, I think, something that I've through time, I think, done a reasonably good job at. But I think a lot of people, some people don't. They don't. They just lament their circumstances instead of directing them.
I really commend you for doing that and facing your fear. And we all have the ability to change and grow. Like, one of my favorite concepts is this, the idea of neuroplasticity. The idea that your neural networks, they don't stay static over time. Like, when you learn something, you're physically changing the structure of your brain. Like, how cool is that? And over time, like, we can change even the most deeply ingrained like habits and beliefs, and overcoming fear is a great example of that. And I think it's so true that to to overcome fears or anxieties, like, you've got to like redirect that energy. You've got to like use that somehow, and I think it's awesome that you're able to do that.
Thank you. I talked. One of the things you just said, I thought was really, really great. This idea of reprogramming your mind, and you use the word habits, and how much of our lives are just lived habitually. And COVID was I think, an opportunity for a massive reset button on a lot of people's habits. And if it's measured, and I saw this statistic at one point in time, 50% of people changed their preferred brands being purchased during COVID, because it's such an upset to the general habits. As soon as you change the person's habit, your brain subconsciously and consciously starts to reclassify, recategorize, and then make new choices. Too often we don't put ourselves in new circumstances and reset our habits. Instead, we just continually go about our habits, and then we'll set ridiculous New Year's resolutions. Well, I'm going to change this thing, but we change nothing else about our lives. Well, you're not going to. You will. That thing you think you're going to change is going to go right back to mesh in all these other habits that you have. If you want to reset your mind, if you want to do something new, you've got to think of yourself as a habitual creature, and you have to put a reset button in there that allows space to change, to change the things you want to change. It all begins with the kind of what are the things I normally do throughout the day. Start changing them, and you'll be able to make other changes in your life.
Totally. I think that is so interesting. I had no idea that, there's been such a paradigm shift in, people's preferred brands. That's fascinating. And, absolutely, we're definitely creatures of habit. And I think there's a quote that comes to mind that, you spend the first 20 or 30 years making habits, and then the next 20 or 30 years are, your habits make you. And I think
Right.
that's that really encapsulates that idea. And if you gain control over your habits, like you gain control over like life, you can just master anything. Because I think most of our thoughts and most of our actions are mostly automatic, and those are just like habits that we've developed. So it's a fascinating topic. And if anyone's interested in learning more, like definitely some great books to check out is the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and Atomic
Ah,
Habits. I can't remember the author on that one, but also a fantastic read.
yeah, great recommendations. Atomic Habits. I've not read that one yet. It's sitting in. I actually bought the audiobook, and I've not got around to it yet. I read one several years ago called Triggers, which was about adult behavioral change, and the premise started off with adults don't change their behavior. That's just the premise. We don't you don't make massive behavior changes once we're adults, to your point of like you spend the first 10, 20, 30 years setting habits and then the next just doing them. And the book was about if you want to make a change, you have got to change your circumstances, because all of your circumstances have become molded around who you are right now. And if you want to change yourself, you have to change those circumstances, because everything right now is just keeping you right where you're at. And if you think you're gonna like, oh, I'm gonna, lose weight because of such and such, but you don't change your habits, you're not going to. And if you do, it's going to be for a short period of time. You're going to snap right back, because that is how your life is built. You've got to make some fundamental changes to your life to be able to make the positive changes that you're looking to make, and to your point, living your best life, whatever that is for you.
Yeah, totally. I think, like changing our mental programs and habits is so difficult because, like we are set up to live as efficiently as possible, and that's why we have habits, because it's really like mentally efficient. If you just imagine, like, if you had to imagine what it took to actually learn to drive, right? Imagine if you had
Mm.
to use that same level of mental bandwidth every time you drove. Like, it's just completely unsustainable, right? So it's really this gift, because habits kind of free up your mind to think about other things. The problem is when they take over and you have like no control. But that's when we've got to employ some of these tricks to kind of tame them.
Yeah. Well, before we go any further, do you want to play a game? You interested in playing a game with me?
Hell yeah, let's play a game. Let's do it.
All right. Hell yeah, I love that. Okay, I'm going to put our screens back here. I'm going to pull up a game that I really find fun. Hold on. Clicking the buttons, and sharing the screen. Here we go. Ready? Ready for this? So exciting.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay. We're going to play Whatchamajrot.
Whatchamajrot. Oh, fantastic. I'm an amazing artist. Oh my gosh, you guys are in for a treat.
Are you really? The hell, man?
No.
Okay. I was like, I hope not. I wonder if we can put this chat up here. This chat thing is new for me. I've not used the chat thing so much. I'm just going to leave it up there. And if people want to chat, go to YouTube, watch the stream on YouTube. You can chat on YouTube. You can also chat on LinkedIn. It might work on Facebook too. I don't know. But if you want to chat or vote or see what we're doing and be a part of our chat, use the chat thing there.
Then it'll be coffee with humans. Well, it is. Is it coffee with? It is coffee with humans, right? But it'll be coffee with more than. Yeah, but it'll be coffee with more than one human at the same time.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Here's what we're gonna do. Here's how this role is going to operate. We have 3 of these. What's going to happen is that there's going to be a phrase that's put on the screen like this: draw a frog sitting in a canoe headed for waterfall. We will have 1 minute to draw that phrase.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we will our drawings to the screen so that we can see what that looks like, and then we'll vote on who wins. Here's the other key about voting: you can vote for yourself. If you think I'm gonna get this chat up here, if you think that you did the best job, you should vote for yourself. And if I think I did the best job, I'm going to vote for myself, because why not? Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
After 3 of these, we'll crown a winner, and you walk away with eternal glory, which is a big deal. All right, you ready for the first one?
I am, readier than I'll ever be.
Okay. All right. Draw a one-eyed monster riding on a unicycle while drinking a milkshake through a straw.
Okay, I know exactly what to do here. Okay.
You do not.
I know exactly what to do. I know exactly what to do. Jason, you're really in trouble.
I believe it. A one-eyed monster on a unicycle.
$30.
Oh, this. What is he doing? He's drinking a milkshake through a straw?
He's drinking a milkshake.
10 seconds.
Okay.
Hurry up, man. If you're going to beat me, you can bring your A game.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, I'm so winning this.
Okay, fine.
My sarcasm is coming through.
Since you think you're going to win this, we'll allow you to vote first. You go first.
Okay.
Show us what you got.
Look at my amazing creation, right? Okay, so here it is. Here it is. Can you see that? I'm an artist, right? Is this not the best one you've seen?
That's pretty good. That's good.
So I'll explain it. My monster is basically an eye, and I couldn't figure out where to put the mouth because I hadn't thought that far yet. So the straw is kind of somewhere on the bike, so we can just imagine there's a mouth there somewhere. So that's
it looks like a straw's coming out of his ear.
Sure, why not?
He's a monster. Prove me wrong. All right, that's fine. That's good, man. We'll see what the deal is here. Watch this.
Oh damn, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
My monster has no body, because I totally blew out the proportions of that, and didn't think about where to put a body because I drew the bike first.
Whoa, I like the milkshake is huge, but is it being held by the straw?
Okay.
What's holding it up?
Okay, so my plan, my thought was it's a gigantic milkshake. It's like a goblet on the floor, huge goblet, and then there's a big straw. He's in the Alps. It's like one of those horns. Only it's a.
It looks like someone's standing on a platform and playing a didgeridoo or something.
All right, that's fine. You know what? Mock me. All right, you ready for the second one?
All right, let's do it.
A frog wearing a cape and sitting on top of an airplane.
Oh, okay. A frog wearing a cape sitting on top of an airplane. Okay.
I don't. The trouble with this is how do you set priorities for what to draw? That's what I'm still not even good. I've done a lot of these draw things. Still don't even know how to set priorities.
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay.
I'm going off the reservation on this one. I don't know what's going to happen here. Okay.
You're done already? Wow, that's confident.
I'm
3, 2,
I don't know. We'll see. Oh boy. All right. Well, I went first this first time, so or you went I'll go first this time. You went first.
Sure.
Last. Okay, so this is a frog wearing a cape sitting on top of an airplane.
Oh, where's the frog?
Exactly. If you saw an airplane that big, you wouldn't be able to see a damn frog.
Okay. Clever. Sure. I like that. Yeah. That was okay. I can see. This was my attempt. Honestly, like I don't know how to draw a frog. I was thinking like frog Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but then I'm not that great of an artist, so I just drew this like thing sitting on an airplane.
All right. Well,
even the cape is not great. So. I tried, but it just honestly looks like some kind of looks like he's wearing hair or something. I don't know. I was trying to make a flapping effect. I am not an artist.
Okay, well, I'm going to have to give that one to you because you made an effort to draw a frog, and I clearly, I feel like I took some liberties on mine by not drawing a frog.
Too eager. You tried to finish too soon. That's a problem.
I think so. All right, so you win that one. Who won the first one?
I don't think we actually voted on the first one, did we?
Put pictures to the screen. Well, let's before we get too far, we should vote on this so we don't.
I think you definitely have this one. Like didgeridoo on like
yours looks like a monster. Mine looks like a person. I feel like a person with one eye.
Yours look like it's just a face on a unicycle.
Yeah.
I would give that one to you.
Really?
No, I think you have that one. Yeah.
I'm gonna give one to you. You're giving one to me. Now we're tied. No,
looks like we need a tiebreaker.
We do need a tiebreaker. Here's our tiebreaker. Number 3.
Okay.
Draw Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy at a birthday party for the Easter Bunny.
Okay.
Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy.
Okay. I'm gonna draw the most accurate depiction of this.
Ho ho ho. I don't know why I keep saying ho ho ho. Ho ho ho. Oh my gosh, this is pulling out all my bad drawing skills. Oh ho ho. I don't know. That's all I can say. Oh, 30 seconds. Tooth Fairy.
Okay. Easter Bunny. Okay.
10 seconds.
Finishing touches.
Oh, this I don't know about this.
3, 2, 1.
Oh! I didn't leave myself enough time for these.
I'm really curious. I want you to go first. What did you do?
Okay, fine. All right, here we go. This is my Santa Claus with the Tooth Fairy. That's the Tooth Fairy. And as you can clearly see, there's a bag here. Those are the bag of teeth that the Tooth Fairy might keep. And then that was going to be the Easter Bunny, but I was focusing on trying to draw the Tooth Fairy, and I sort of just drew a scribble that clearly doesn't look like the Easter Bunny.
It looks like some kind of bearded superhero died, and he's being like treated in heaven or something.
It does. It does look like that. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to see my?
As a compliment.
Yeah, definitely. I think a bearded superhero, like much more interesting than the prompts that we got, Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. Do you want to see mine? It's
Yeah, I do.
probably like the most accurate. So I really wanted to go for like precision. So we needed to draw a Santa Claus and a Tooth Fairy at a birthday party for the
Come on. What is that about?
I
don't
wanted to
even-
go for accuracy, you know, like what can I
That
say?
was that.
I am not good at Pictionary. Like, don't play Pictionary with me.
I feel like in the spirit of the game, I have to win that one.
Yeah, you got to win that one. Yeah, you got to win that one.
Come on. I applaud you though for the liberty that you took on that to have the creativity to think all outside the box, like not even think about drawing, and then come up with poetry. Basically, you were writing poetry.
What can I say? You bend the rules a little bit with the frog. I bend the rules a little bit. So,
well, okay, all right. So we, who are you voting for on that one?
I don't know. I think I have to vote for you because you put in the effort, and be it a superhero, man. Like
It was Santa Claus. Thank you very much.
Santa Claus is a superhero. Like he.
Is he?
I mean, I feel like if there wasn't this history, like if you introduce someone like that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or something, like he could be a superhero.
A guy who just travels around giving gifts.
Yeah, you think about it, like he's got to travel across the world, like within like 24 hours, like with some reindeers on a sled. Like that's pretty super. Like I'm sure like Tony Stark would hook him up with some tech to get that working.
That's a heck of a superpower.
Mm.
What's been your favorite Marvel movie? Sounds like you know these things well.
Oh, like I have trouble deciding between two. So I'm a huge fan of like Iron Man, but I also really like Doctor Strange. And yeah, so it's a tough one. It's a tough one. What about you?
You know what? Doctor Strange is kind of I don't want to say it's weird, but it's
different.
It is. Yeah, the whole premise of it and all that kind of stuff, it is a whole lot different, I think, than the other ones. I just watched Black Panther or rewatched Black Panther again the other day. And I'm a pretty big fan of Black Panther. However, I think for humor, I have found great humor in Ant-Man and Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Solid choice. Definitely a great one. I actually haven't seen Black Panther. It's like I think it's probably the only one I haven't seen yet. Only because it came out when I had my finals in university, and I just never got around to watching it. Like, I need to watch it.
You still gotta watch it. It's really good. But I think that the character in that the guy who played Black Panther, he passed away like a year or two after he did the filming.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
He had like a long-term, either a long-term cancer or some other long-term illness that he didn't tell anybody about because he didn't want to be treated differently and didn't want to, all these things. Didn't want a big deal made about him. And so, he did all the filming of that and then passed away.
Wow, that's crazy. Turns out he was a superhero in real life too.
Right?
Wow.
It's kind of an interesting way to look at it. So as we're closing out our time together, this idea of living your best life now, the art of living well. What are some closing thoughts you've got on that from your journey?
Yeah, well, to be honest, like I'm still a baby, right? I'm like 23, so like speaking as if I have some authority on the subject, like come on, like really, but honestly, like if there's something I've learned is that it pays dividends to really listen to like your gut and intuition, like what is working, what is not working, and trust that it knows, right? So there's this quote from Steve Jobs, which is a little bit cliche, but I love it, which says that, you should trust your heart and intuition because they truly know what you want to become. Everything else is secondary. I think that really speaks quite a lot of truth. Everyone has a solution for everything, right? If you want to like get healthy, or lose weight, whatever, it's like, you got to do this diet. This is the be all and end all diet. Or, there's, if you want to start a business, it's like, oh, you got to do it this way. Or I would just say like, find your own truth, because there is no like single absolute truth. There is only what's true to you. So that's what I would say.
Interesting. I like that. I like that idea of gut. Trust your gut. It knows something that you're not yet, maybe your conscious mind is not yet aware of.
Totally. It's amazing because you think about it, like our conscious mind can only process a very limited amount of information, right? There's only 4 to 7 things that you can hold in your working memory at any one time. There's about 40 things that your conscious brain can actually notice at any one time, but your subconscious mind, that can actually process over 1 million different bits of information at any given moment. And it is like this massive parallel machine, right? So it can do so much parallel computation. So, all your gut feelings come from like the subconscious. So you just got to trust that it's a supercomputer doing some awesome work for you.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, this has been great. It's been really great getting to know you. I appreciate you taking the time to come on Coffee with Humans. I'm going to put your link up here again for your podcast, inyourelement.sounder.fm, if people want to go check out your podcast. It's been really fun, man.
Thank you so much, Jason. It has been an absolute pleasure being on the show and getting to know you as well. I've had a lot of fun and I'm a huge fan of your podcast. So definitely
awesome.
Keep up the awesome work. I love it. And I'm sure others do too.
Cool. Well, this has been Coffee with Humans. It is a live, candid conversation between strangers who become friends in order to make the world a better place. The premise is that if 2 people are walking on a journey, their own individual journeys, and just for an hour they join together with the intention to create something good can come of it. Check us next time, subscribe, and share the YouTube channel. We'll see y'all.
One of the things I love about Coffee with Humans are the raw conversations I get to have, meeting new people just like you. If you or someone you know should be on Coffee with Humans, go to coffeewithhumans.com. Remember, the only rule is no sales calls.
This has been Coffee with Humans. Subscribe to get updates or click to have coffee with me. coffeewithhumans.com.